Okay, let's dive right into this. I want you to imagine for a second what happens after we die. What if you had unfinished business? You know, a love you never got to confess, a child you never held, or a justice you never, ever received. Well, according to this story, you don't just move on. No, you arrive somewhere else entirely.
So a man named Kshitij, he just kind of pops into existence. He finds himself standing in this place that's shrouded in a thick, cold fog. And right in front of him is this massive, ancient banyan tree, and from its roots this cold wind is blowing. It's almost like the tree itself is breathing. And that's when this deep, booming voice echoes through the mist, giving him this really chilling welcome.
He's frantically trying to piece it all together. The last thing he can remember. Man, he was so happy. He was on his way to propose to the love of his life. She was waiting for him in a restaurant. He could see her smiling through the window. He took a deep breath, stepped off the curb, and then nothing. Just impact. A speeding truck. And then this foggy, cold darkness.
It dawns on Kshitij pretty quickly. He's dead. And he's not alone. He's in what the voice called the world of unfulfilled souls. And under that giant banyan tree, he starts to see other figures, each one trapped by a pain so deep it's literally tethered them between worlds.
He sees a woman just weeping over an unfinished knitted sweater, a man pacing back and forth going nowhere. There's a small child just listlessly shaping and reshaping a mound of dirt. And then there's this young girl silently counting cowrie shells, over and over. She gets to 14, lets out this cry of pure anguish, and then starts all over again. They're all ghosts, completely haunted by their own pasts.
After his own wave of grief hits him and then passes, Kshitij has this moment of just total clarity. He looks at the others, and it clicks. If he hangs on to his own heartbreak, he's going to become just like them, stuck for eternity. So he comes up with this pretty radical idea. What if they share their stories? What if, by talking about their pain, they could finally lighten the load that's holding them all here?
And just like that, the first path to liberation starts to reveal itself. It's all about healing through empathy. It's a path that isn't built on forgetting what happened, but on this powerful idea that maybe, just maybe, shared sorrow could be the key to setting them all free.
The woman with the sweater, her name is Savitri. She's the first one to speak up. She tells them about her life, a life filled with love, but always shadowed by this one deep sorrow. She couldn't have a child. After years of heartbreak, years of pressure, she finally became pregnant. And it was, she says, the happiest time of her entire life. But that joy, it didn't last. During labor, there were complications, and the doctor gave the family this terrible, impossible choice: save the mother or save the child. While her husband and family were begging the doctor to save her, Savitri made a different choice. With her last breath, she pleaded for them to save her baby. Her child was born, but she ended up here, forever yearning for the baby she never got to hold.
Hearing this, the little girl in the dirt, Gudia, she looks up and tells her story. She was born with a hole in her heart. Her family was incredibly poor, and her mother worked day and night trying to save up for an operation they just could never afford. But her mother treasured her, always holding her close, always promising her that everything was going to be okay.
Then one night, Gudia just couldn't breathe. Her mother snatched her up and just ran, barefoot through the dark, empty streets, sprinting toward the hospital. She kept whispering to her, telling her to hang on, but it was too late. Gudia died right there in her mother's arms, and her soul arrived in this limbo, still longing for that one thing: a mother's embrace. Now, what's really incredible about this is how it reveals this profound symmetry in their suffering. Kshitij sees it immediately. You've got a mother whose soul is trapped because she needs to give her love to a child, and right next to her is a child whose soul is trapped because she needs to receive a mother's love. They're not just two sad stories, they're two halves of the exact same whole.
So Kshitij suggests something unthinkable. He tells Savitri to embrace Gudia, to love her as her own. And in that moment, Savitri opens her arms and Gudia just rushes into her embrace, like she's finally found her way home. The mother's yearning and the child's longing are fulfilled, right there, in each other. And just like that, their souls, now complete, find peace, and they vanish from that world.
This is amazing, right? Other souls see this and find their own release. But one soul remains silent, the girl counting her shells. And just as the air starts to feel a little lighter, a new soul appears, and with him, a whole different path to liberation. This isn't about peace, this is the wheel of destiny. This is about justice.
This newcomer introduces himself as Damanche. And man, he tells this tragic story about being a watchman, a good guy who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. His story is so convincing, it's just filled with injustice and this terrible, undeserved suffering. He claims he heard a scream and ran to help a 14-year-old girl who'd been attacked, but when her parents showed up, they found him with blood on his hands, leaning over her body. He swears his innocence, but he was accused, convicted, and hanged for a crime he says he didn't commit. Just as Donanjai is finishing his heartbreaking story, the clattering of the cowrie shells stops. Dead silence. The girl, the one who'd been counting to 14 this whole time, she leaps to her feet, and her voice, which no one had heard until now, just rips through the silence with a single, furious word.
The air just freezes. She points this trembling finger at Donanjai, and her eyes, they're not empty anymore. They are blazing with the fire of pure vengeance. She tells him her name is Hedel, and that she is the 14-year-old girl he attacked. And she tells him she's been waiting right here, in this limbo, just for him.
The other souls, just filled with rage at his deception, they surround the Nanjai. They don't offer him empathy. Oh no, they deliver a sentence, a karmic curse. They declare that he will stay trapped in this darkness until every single living being in the entire universe, every insect, every plant, every person, has achieved liberation. And even then, he has to wait another 10,400 years before he can even approach the door to his own salvation.
And with that, justice was served. Not human justice, but cosmic justice, absolute and completely inescapable. As the darkness just swallows the Nanjai whole, Heital's soul, its purpose in this strange place finally fulfilled, finds its own release. Her long, long wait is finally over.
So what does this haunting story really tell us about the ultimate goal of moksha, or liberation? Well, it shows that the path isn't some single, one-size-fits-all journey. It's deeply, deeply personal, and it's shaped by the life you lived, and, crucially, the way you left it. This really lays out the two very different roads to liberation we just saw. You have Savitri and Gudya, who found their moksha through empathy. They healed each other's deepest wounds with pure love. But then you have Hedel. She found her liberation through justice, making sure the cosmic scales were balanced for the terrible wrong that was done to her.
When you boil it all down, what this story is really telling us is that moksha isn't about reaching some enlightened state of nothingness. It's about closure. It's the untangling of that final, most painful knot that ties a soul to its earthly existence. For some, that knot gets untied with a gentle hand. For others, it has to be cut by the sharp blade of justice.
And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to think about, doesn't it? This story paints a world where karma dictates not just your fate, but the very nature of your salvation. It kind of forces us to ask, is liberation some universal reward for everyone? Or is it a custom-made resolution, perfectly tailored to the life we lived and the pain we left behind?